Hello, hello. Um, Last time we looked at the fairy tales, we were looking at an explanatory prompt and we were marking the text that we were reading to explain how these fairy tales followed the pattern of how other fairy tales also follow patterns. This time, we want to make sure that we want to look at the prompt first, basically. So let's go down to the bottom, last page. You always go to the last page and you make sure you understand the prompt. Do you believe that fairy tales are important? Read these two fairy tales to form your opinion. Cite examples from these fairy tales to support your answers. Now, I tend to come up with my answer first, but I stay open to the idea that my answer might need to change. Knee-jerk reaction, yeah, fairy tales are important. They help kids understand storytelling. They help kids begin to read eventually. I think they're important. But I don't want to get stuck with a yes, read these two fairy tales, and then have no good thing to write about. So I'm open to a no. I can just write no, I don't think they're important, if that would be an easier essay for me to write. So as I'm reading, I'm paying attention to parts that I think are important when you're a kid listening to a fairy tale. Let's go back up. Let's start with Rapunzel. Nope, this is Rumpelstiltskin. Rapunzel. So we are underlining things that we think make fairy tales important, especially for children, because a lot of times children are who hear them. There once was a man and a woman who had long in vain wished for a child. So I'm underlining that part, or highlighting it. I think that's important. You want stuff, you want to work for it, hopefully, fingers crossed. That's where the story goes. At length, the woman hoped that God was about to grant her desire. I'm underlining that, because if I'm a religious parent and I'm reading this to my child, I like that it mentions God. These people had a little window at the back of their house from which a splendid garden could be seen, which was full of the most beautiful flowers and herbs. It was, however, surrounded by a high wall, and no one dared to go into it because it belonged to the enchantress, who had great power and was dreaded by all the world. One day the woman was standing by the window and looked down into the garden, when she saw a bed which was planted with the most beautiful rampion, Rapunzel, and it looked so fresh and green that she longed for it and had the greatest desire to eat some. This desire increased every day, and as she knew that she could not get any of it, she quite pined away, and began to look pale and miserable. Then her husband was alarmed, and asked, "What ails you, dear wife?" "Ah," she replied, "if I can't eat some of the rampion which is in the garden behind our house, I shall die." The man, who loved her, thought, sooner than let your wife die, bring her some of the rampion yourself. Let it cost what it will. So now what I'm going to do, because I'm not quite sure if I'm a yes or a no, I'm going to underline that part, because I kind of dislike the fact, if I was reading this to a child, I don't like that example that it's setting for the child. Let it cost what it will. You can go steal from the lady's garden and you'll deal with it later, the consequences. That's not good. So if I want to change my mind, I might use that point in my essay. At twilight, he clambered down over the wall into the garden of the enchantress, hastily clutched a handful of rampion, and took it to his wife. She at once made herself a salad of it and ate it greedily. This is an underline. As long as you mark, let's say you don't know your opinion, when you actually have the paper test in front of you, if you mark it two separate ways, like you circle the sentences that are the yes and you underline the sentences that are no, then you'll be able to kind of keep your notes straight. It tasted so good to her, so very good, that the next day she longed for it 3 times as much as before. If he was to have any rest, her husband must once more descend into the garden. In the gloom of the evening, therefore, he let himself down again. But when he clambered down the wall, he was terribly afraid, for he saw the enchantress standing before him. "How can you dare? How can you dare?" said she, with an angry look, "descend in my garden and steal my rampion like a thief." Yikes. So I'm underlining that. So far, I'm on the no side. "You shall suffer for it." Underlining that one. "Ah," answered he, "let mercy take the place of justice. I only made up my mind to do it out of a necessity. My wife saw your rampion from the window and felt such a longing for it that she would have died if she had not gone to eat some." That's weird. Underlining that too. They're kind of over dramatic. Then the enchantress allowed her anger to be softened. She said to him, "If the case be as you say, I will allow you to take away as much rampion as you will. Only I make one condition. You must give me the child which your child will bring into the world." Underlining that. Let's see. The child must give me the child. That's underlined. That's kind of weird. So while I kind of still secretly in the back of my head think that fairy tales are good and kids should hear them, I think I have more information from the essay proving no, they're not good. Look, they're showing kids that you trade children for lettuce. They're showing kids that you can break into the back of people's yards. I could write a better essay with those points than while I do honestly believe fairy tales are good, I don't have information from the story yet to show that they're good. Let's go up to Rumpelstiltskin real quick and see if we can borrow some ideas. Remember, we're highlighting the yeses and we're underlining the nos. No, fairy tales aren't good. Yes, fairy tales are good. "Once there was a miller who was poor, but who had a beautiful daughter. Now it happened that he had to go and speak to the king, and in order to make himself appear more important to him, I have a daughter," important, he said to him, "I have a daughter who can spin straw into gold." So I'm underlining that because I don't like the idea, in order to make himself seem more important, he had to lie to seem important. "The king said to the miller, 'That is an art which pleases me well. If your daughter is as clever as you say, bring her tomorrow to my palace, and I will put her to the test.' And when the daughter was brought to him, he took her into the room, which was quite full of straw, gave her a spinning wheel and a reel, and said, 'Now set to work, and if by tomorrow morning early you have not spun straw into gold during the night, you must die.' I'm going to threaten you. I'm ultimately in charge." That's strange. Thereupon he himself locked up the room and left her in it alone. So there sat the poor miller's daughter, and for the life of her could not tell what to do. She had no idea how straw could be spun into gold, and she grew more and more frightened until at last she began to weep. So I'm going to pause there because I think you get the idea. We're underlining stuff we can use. Once we're done with the whole story, underlining stuff we can use, we come down here below the prompt, and I have to change my prompt to no. And I come up with main topics. There's the intro, of course. There's the 3 body paragraphs, and then the conclusion. But my main ideas, I think, came out to be bad examples. They're all bad examples for kids in the story. What else did I find here? Ate it greedily, shall suffer for, and then they're lots of death or drama. She was going to die because she didn't, get her rampion. He was going to kill her. She didn't spin it into gold. And then, let's see, I'm having trouble coming up with a third. Of course, I haven't finished the story yet. You must give your child to, the way things, people would say, old time customs were different and kind of upsetting. So I don't know if I want to explain that to my child, like trading lettuce, trading rampion. When you write your essay, you want to use the same vocabulary they used from the story for children. And I'm sure there's, the king can kill you, can kill you for bad reasons. So I don't want to read that to my kid. And I think if I kept reading the story, I could find more and more examples that fall underneath these topics. Like the characters set bad examples, stealing. What was the other one? Still skin. Lying to the king. These are bad examples, and I don't want my child reading about that. Death or drama. Die because, and I'm going to use shorthand here, because no rampion. And then kill. But we might need to just put drama for this one because we already used the fact that the king can kill you. So let's just say they're too dramatic. And find other reasons to support that. But I hope that helps. You're going to have to highlight some more and underline some more and show me that you can at least mark up the text, because we're trying to take this FSA idea and I'm trying to teach you little skills about it. Hopefully that worked.